So, Vlad delivered an hour-long press conference to the world, not just to the nation, to the motherfucking world. An hour-long press conference, or hour-long conference. He just not a press conference. He just spoke for an hour from the Kremlin. And quite simply, so yesterday when we spoke about this, I told you that the reality was, Peggy. I told you that the reality was shit would kick off last night. So today, as I suspected, all throughout last night, all throughout the early morning of today, and all throughout today, there has been endless gunfire and illegal shelling occurring all around the Donetsk or Donbass, the Donbass region and the Donetsk region. Endless shelling and firing going on. It's not been entirely clear from which side, but it does seem like mostly from the. It's all the reality is it's all been from the pro-separatist sides, and then at around midday today, I believe, two huge areas in Ukraine. So the Donbass region, within the Donbass region, there are within the Donbass region of Ukraine, there are two boroughs or counties or whatever, very large individual areas. One of them has a city with over 1 million people in it. So a very largely populated area of the country, something like 2 or 3 million people in these two regions. And those two regions have declared today that they are now individual nation states. They're not actually headphones. They're just they're just ear warmers. They're not even headphones. They're just to keep my ears warm and happy. But yeah, the separatist leaders. So we kept talking about the Russian separatists yesterday. So the separatist leaders in those two areas declared today that the areas are independent. And I'm just telling you now, you know what worries me most about this? Do you know how much this is going to inspire all those fucking separationists that exist in states like Texas? I warn you now, Americans. I would expect far-right groups like the Proud Boys, other militant disruptors in the United States to start getting rowdy again, seeing this as inspiration, genuinely. Anyway, around midday, they declared themselves independent nations, and they appealed directly to Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin, asking that he protect them. And over the course of an hour-long address to the nation and the world, Vladimir Putin stated that yes, he recognizes these two now as sovereign states and is pledging his allegiance and aid to them. And basically the point of this is, the way Vlad is wording it, is it's to give him an excuse. He spent an hour coming up with excuses and trying to make it sound legal, what he's doing. You know, these are rebellion forces demanding their freedom. This is a civil war, and now he's legally supporting the rightful freedom fighters and all that, and what this means is this is now full-fledged invasion. This is now officially the full-fledged invasion that's just happened. It's as of Vlad finishing that address to the world, those two regions are now under Russian protection, which is completely illegal. Russia can't just say that they are now protecting 3 million people in one of the largest parts of the Ukraine. They're just doing what they did with Crimea and saying it's ours. It's ours, and I don't give a shit. Why is this happening in the first place? I can explain that. I can explain that. The Donetsk region, the Donbass region, and Crimea, and all of Ukraine, all of Eastern Europe have long had great um, political, geopolitical, and historical ties with Russia. Now, since the fall of the Soviet Union, the theoretical end of the Cold War, um, and the fall of the Berlin Wall and all of that shit, there have been all these various nations around Eastern Europe. Okay, Ukraine, Estonia, Lithuania, all of these are modern countries. Yes, some of them existed on maps before, but effectively Russia, the Russian Empire, has never ever seen them as anything other than Russia. Same as Mongolia, and even parts of China. Russia just see those as being Russia. Siberia, the country of Siberia, not the Russians, it's Russia. They have a very different view of history and the world to us, which is natural. I can't really say which one is right, but I can say how it affects what is happening right now and what is right and wrong right now. So, 8 years ago, Russia seized Crimea, annexed Crimea, the Crimean Peninsula in the Baltic Sea, or the other sea. There's the two seas. I can't remember which. I think the Baltic. But I might be wrong. I could be wrong. And the point is, Russia has just been military expanding west for many a year. At the same time, NATO has been militarily expanding east. Now, NATO was formed during the Cold War as an alliance of nations to threaten Russia. Theoretically, at the end of the Cold War, NATO is meant to disband and disarm, whereas instead it kept growing, expanding, multiplying, taking new nations into it. And the thing is, nations would appeal to join NATO. The problem is, a lot of people almost speak about NATO like it is a country these days, like NATO deserves its sovereignty and anyone can choose to just join NATO. But at the end of the day, it is a world peacekeeping force made up of a few very powerful countries and other countries that are... It's sort of what happens, and it's kind of mafia-esque, and this is not the best take, right? This is a very simplified take. This is a stupidly simplified take of how NATO works, okay? But the most layman way I can explain NATO's method of operation is they say, right, NATO, it's France, the UK, America, Germany, and many, many other countries, all with nukes. And the point is, NATO is there to say, you aren't allowed nukes, and if you join up with us, we'll protect you. If you don't join up with us, sure, you get to have nukes, but you're not in NATO. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Get the fucking picture. It's a little bit mafia-esque, a little bit, but that is very much a simplification of the situation. Right, I'm getting there, Clary. I just needed the slight bit of historical context there. The context is super needed for the recent escalation. So for 8 years now, there has been intense conflict in the Donbass region of Ukraine. Okay, with Russian separatist forces growing thanks to Russian propaganda in the area. Several years ago, there was, you guys may remember this, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a democratically elected prime minister in Ukraine about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was overthrown. There was mass protest, and he was overthrown, and an actor, a literal television actor, became the new prime minister of the country with the people's backing. No democratic vote, but the people's backing. Now, the former prime minister democratically won, but through rigged elections that were funded by Russia and were funded and manipulated by Russian interests the whole way. The former president was a Russian plant. When people were protesting in the streets of Ukraine, in the streets of Kiev, demanding that he leave and demanding. They wanted a fresh election. They wanted a chance to democratically vote in the guy they wanted. The prime minister refused, and then started shooting protesters. In one incident, something like 14 protesters were gunned down in the street, mowed down, shot, dead. This was 5 or 6 years ago. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Just over in Europe, right? A European country. So the legally democratically elected Russian plant prime minister was killing his population in the street and inflicted martial law upon the country. Okay? The people overthrew him. And they got somebody that can fairly be called a strange leader, an actor, makes it very easy to attack him, not democratically elected, overthrew the democratically elected president, but that ignores the context of he wasn't really democratically elected. He was a Russian plant and he was killing his people in the streets. But you see how if you're in Russia and you get the Russian news, if you're in Belarus, which is aligned with Russia, Kazakhstan, China, a huge portion of the world, there's half of us that know one story and there's half of us that know the other version of the story, right? And they both hold a lot of weight. Now, the problem is both stories have been known and spread around in Ukraine, and one of them, there are more people that support the current prime minister. He is actually beloved. He is well supported. But in a country with 40 million people, around a good million of them are Russian separatists. Okay? And how the fuck do we actually know? Because we still have our historical Western imperialist perspective on it and our own faulty news sources that we know we can't fully trust. Exactly. But what we do know, in Ukraine, there are about a million people of the 40 million people, which is a sizable number of people who don't speak any Ukrainian and speak Russian. They speak Russian. They're born and raised in the Donbass region. The majority of people speak Russian. So you can see how Russian propaganda in that region would start to affect people. And so here we are now in 2022. A good million or so Russian separatists, all on the border with Russia, kind of egging things on. Then, what happened? Putin, basically, shit's been happening in Belarus that I would also need to get into fully to explain exactly what's been happening, and I haven't researched it quite enough other than to explain to you. Belarus is, again, in the European Union, is an EU country, right? And is the only country in the EU. Belarus is famously EU's last dictator. The Belarusian dictator is the EU's last dictator. He is a dictator. There have been no democratic votes there for years. He's been in power for 20 or 30 years or something. He's a dictator. There is martial law in that country right now, and that's in the EU. It's countries like Belarus that did make me think a few years ago, whilst I did vote Remain, I did not want to leave the EU. I did have, people kept talking about fishing and bananas, and I was there thinking, Belarus. What up, Trip? Belarus. Country that we support in committing war crimes, or did support in committing war crimes on their people. Thank you, Trip. I always have to let you, not headphones, just ear warmers, because my ears get really cold, but then my head gets too warm. So I needed ear warmers, and then I saw ear warmers with unicorn thing, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. Belarus is is the point, okay? And whilst in the EU is more an arm of Russia, and basically, Russia uh, started sending loads of military gear, and it was a big trade deal with Belarus. Um, and it was right. Final bit of context: for the last 15 plus years, well, for the last 30 years, Russia has been requesting, asking America and asking the world, every Russian leader, not just Vladimir Putin, he hasn't been the only Russian leader, every Russian leader has been asking the Western world to disband and disarm NATO because it is seen as a Western imperialist threat upon the Russian people. They cannot see it any other way. It is a fighting force made to fight the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. Why does this independent fighting army still exist? That's a fair question if you're a Russian person, right? Um, it feels a bit racist or something that there's an army out there that exists just to kill Russians at its core. Like, that is what it was made to do. Sure, they supposedly do peace shit in Central Africa and stuff now, but they don't. You know which army I've off the back of some conversations that we've had here in this chat with Yog and stuff, I looked into it more. He wasn't bullshitting us. The only army in the world, the only country in the world that has an army doing anything to try and solve the actual problems in Central Africa and not doing it in a way that fucks shit up, actually doing it in a decent manner, is like the French army and the French Foreign Legion and stuff. I really do understand the Russian separatist view, the Russian view on these things. I do get it. But hey, yeah, scary thing that, huh? But Vlad, basically, so for the last few months, there have been lots of military vehicles and lots of shipments of things going to Belarus and going to Kaliningrad. Also, for the last few months, or last few years, for the last 8 years, Ukraine have been requesting to join NATO. Now, they recently again were requesting to join NATO. Now, they were actually had their request rejected, and they've since again requested to join NATO. And every time they request to join NATO, because they're feeling right. So you're in Ukraine, and on your border you see Russia shipping weapons to Belarus. You go, oh shit, we better join NATO because we don't have any nukes and they're a nuclear force, and that's kind of scary. NATO says no, but whilst you're requesting to join NATO, the Russians go, our nearest border? The Ukrainians are requesting to join our most feared enemies and put a NATO base on our border? Literally, that would be like, to put it into context for Brits, that would be like Ireland, not Northern Ireland, but Ireland, saying, hey, Russia, we want you to defend us. We're not in NATO. We're not in the EU anymore. Like, we left for some reason. And Russia, we want you to defend us. Right? You can imagine people in Northern Ireland, if the Russians started building a fucking war fucking military base on the border of Northern Ireland, people in Northern Ireland would say to people in the rest of the UK, help. Right? But it was just a power play. What up, Lo? I know, it's insane. It was just a threat, okay? It wasn't necessarily meant to go where it went, but because of the Russian separatists and all the other stuff happening in Ukraine, all of these... Are you seeing why I needed to explain the context? Because basically it's a lot of shit. Sometimes wars aren't very complicated. Sometimes they're exceptionally complicated. And where, in my opinion, this is, as I've said before, an escalation or a continuation of the Cold War. This is the second Cold War, a continuation of the original Cold War. It never ended. It's even more complex than anything ever else before. So but the point is, there has been 100 different tinderboxes in that region. Every single one of them capable of igniting this fire. And none of the fires got lit, but there were sparks nearby, visible sparks, and everyone just freaked out, and so they've lit the fires themselves, basically. And so now it's mental. It's fucking. This is so different to Iraq, Debs. This is completely different. Completely different. Right. Differences are. This is even different. The Arab Spring is the closest analog to this, but even that was different. There's never been a war with smartphones. There's never been a war with body cams. There's never been a war not with Western nations, not on this scale, not with a country like Russia. Iraq wasn't a war. That was an invasion that we dragged out meaninglessly. Again, Iraq was, to put it bluntly, in a not racist manner, we were dealing with bearded men in caves with AK-47s, lying about them having nuclear weapons, whilst we had the greatest military tech in the world, and we just fucked it up endlessly to let our boys die and drag a war on forever. You know, it was so different that this is European countries. It's a different form of invasion. The military powers we're talking about are very different. The Gulf Wars were. I don't know much about the Gulf Wars. I don't like that. That is the war period I know nothing about at all. I really need to start learning about the Gulf Wars, but I know nothing about them. I thought they were a continuation of the Cold War, but as you point out there, it's probably more about oil, just like Iraq and Afghanistan and Iran. So, oh god, things are still happening. Right. So it's a lot of context, right? It's a lot of shit. So the thing that finally lit it off, as I say, is literally Russia selling weapons to Belarus. Russian separatists in Ukraine getting riled up because probably being told to by Russia to start riling shit up. And then that causing Western media to go absolutely ape shit, to be fair. And rightfully so, as I've said, because to be like, if somebody is waving a gun in your face, it's not wrong to say, oh my God, I think he's going to shoot me. When there is a gun being pointed in your face, it's not wrong to scream, help, I think I'm going to get shot. Right? I don't actually think that's wrong to do. But that Western media going mental, clashing with what seemed to be happening in Ukraine at the time over the last few weeks, because over the last few weeks, people in Ukraine did seem to be a bit more chill. They're not chill anymore. What up, Hamzy? What's that? Did I say Halo? I can't remember. I'm glad I met all of you, but it's not going to end. It is going to be fine. I am sure. No. I don't think people were crying wolf. It was very much, this feels scary. And anyway, what that Western media has done to some degree, I will say this, is it's called flat out on his bluff. I don't think Putin initially wanted a war. I think he wanted this to be far more subtle and diplomatic, or far more subtle. As I'm saying, he wanted it to be done with the separatists. He wanted it to be slower. He wanted it to just, kind of happen. He's far more interested in having puppets in power. It would have been far more useful for him to have used the Russian separatists in Ukraine to get one of his puppets in power again. That's definitely more what he wanted to do. It's what he's done with Belarus. That's why he supports the Belarusian dictator. It's how he has Kaliningrad. Well, probably, I don't know entirely there. I need to look into that. But it's what he does in that region of the world. It's what he does with Middle Eastern leaders. It's what he does with China. He's far more about the game historically. Looking at his actions historically, this is strange. But, as his speech from a few hours ago has shown, he's not going to be called out on his bluff. The West saying to him, this looks like war, him saying, no, I don't want a war, and them saying, no, you're going to war. Well, he's like, well, better go to war then, or else they'll think I'm a pussy. I'm Putin. I ride bears. Kalishnikov in hand. You know, he can't be a pussy on the world stage. He's a dick. Dicks fuck pussies, right? Except Putin's an asshole, and so he's gonna get fucked by the big dick of America. He's also the biggest asshole and the biggest dick and the biggest pussy all at the same time. Yeah, that's the point. This yeah. You know the final bit of context. You know the final reason for all this. The reason why Vlad had been like arming places and stuff and doing this sort of stuff is it was also to sort of encourage. Right, Vlad has built this pipeline, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, largest oil pipeline to ever be built in the world, and currently European nation, the EU, is blocking it and saying it's not allowed to flow. We're not allowing it, and it, a large part of it originally was to do with him flexing in that region and saying, "You have to let me do this." It was. I don't think it was ever meant to go to war, but he has just flexed and flexed and flexed, and people have rightfully said, "Oh my God, look at these fucking guns being pointed at us," and we've had to flex back. And like two fucking children in a playground, they now have to fight. No, Peggy, Putin's doing the false flag attacks to get it started. That's what I was talking about yesterday. That's what's been happening all day today as well. Russian separatists have been claiming that they've been getting shelled and shot at by Ukrainians and filming these fucking bullshit videos of getting attacked by Ukrainians that are clear bullshit, because the Ukrainian forces have an absolute mandate out right now that they're not opening fire on their own people. As far as any news reporting or media can tell, Ukrainian forces have not fired a shot yet, because they know the second they do fire a real shot, that's when Vlad goes, "Oh, we must defend the people. The Ukrainian leader is killing Ukrainians. He's killing his own people. We must go fight for our Russian separatists." Right? So there have been so many false flag attacks already over the last 3 days. So many. So many. No, there's been endless shelling and gunfire, and as of today, as of a few hours ago, two whole parts of Ukraine have officially been declared legally independent. And let's right. That's the backstory. I think that's all the context that you need for now. So we can now get onto the current news of what's going on. Unlimited money. Yeah. It was an all right recap, wasn't it? Should probably turn this into a YouTube segment or something. Right. Do you want to know something real fun, guys? Jacob Rees-Mogg profits from investments in Russian gas giant and Chinese pharma firm. Last year, Jacob Rees-Mogg made an estimated £600,000 in dividends from Somerset Capital Management. And where is it? But it's also been recently. No, this isn't the article. There we go. Oh, fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off. Basically, Jacob Rees-Mogg is a war investor, and he's been using the war to make the monies already over the last few days. Over the last couple of weeks, he's been using this shit to make the monies. So that's just kind of fun, innit? Good old Jacob Rees-Mogg, eh? What boy? Where is it? Okay, so President Zelensky of Ukraine, has apparently just given a television address. We'll look at what he said there in a second ago. But first, let's go back through the day a little bit. So at 6 o'clock, the Russian president told leaders of France and Germany. So on Monday, Putin told, that's today, leaders of France and Germany, they intend to sign a decree later today recognizing the two pro-Russian breakaway republics in eastern Ukraine. In the near future, the president plans to sign the order. First, let's show you the area. Russian breakaway regions, Ukraine. So this is Ukraine, Donetsk, Luhansk, both within the Donbass region that I was showing you yesterday. This whole area is the Donbass region. And Donetsk and Luhansk have both declared themselves independent nation states loyal to Russia. Okay. As you can see, Ukraine is made up of about 7 or 8 similarly sized regions. This is literally like losing all of Wales, like all of Hampshire and York. You know, it's like Scotland and Wales saying we're now Russian. It's pretty intense. Honk. It helps. And so Putin said 6 hours ago that he was going to recognize them, and then he gave a press conference. Putin made a direct threat to Ukraine, saying Russia is... This is what they call decommunization. You want decommunization? That suits us fine, but don't stop halfway. We're ready to show Ukraine what real decommunization means for it. Modern Ukraine was wholly and fully created by Russia, namely Bolshevik, communist Russia. Oh, God. Oh, fuck. Right. And so Putin went full-blown Nazi today. Sorry, I need another bong and then I'll explain to you what this means. That's really scary. Okay, right. I'm right. There's one side for me then. Cool. There's one side for me. Fucking nuke 'em. Fucking nuke Russia. Done. The Bolshevists, communists. The Bolshevists were Marxists. Bolshevists were Marxist communists, not Leninists, but Marxist communists. The Bolshevists, most importantly, though, were Jewish. They were Jewish Russians who believed in a really decent way of life and were murdered for the crime of being Jewish. They were the communists, the Bolshevists were the communists. You know, when they came for the communists, and I said nothing. Then they came for cripples, and I said nothing. Then they came for the gypsies, and I said nothing. And then they came for us, and there was no one left to speak. The communists that are spoken of are the Bolshevists. The reason why Hitler used the Bolshevists is because they were Jews. When we hear people talk about cultural Marxism as a term evolved from what Hitler called cultural Bolshevism. Cultural Bolshevism was a term used in Nazi era Germany, under Hitler's reign, to spread fear and hatred about Jews. In Russia, a Bolshevik, thank you, Trip, a Bolshevik is a Jew. I'm a Bolshevik. So when he says modern Ukraine was wholly and fully created by Russia, namely the Bolshevik communist Russia, and he also says this is what they call decommunization. You want decommunization, that suits us fine, but don't stop halfway. Ergo, Ukraine is still Bolshevik communist. We're ready to show Ukraine what real decommunization, ergo really getting rid of Bolsheviks, ergo really getting rid of Jews, means for it. Lenin was a Bolshevik. That's why Stalin purged the Jews. Thank you, Trip. I need you keep chiming in with this stuff. This is literally like when, after 9/11, American generals were talking about murdering the sand N-words, you know? And implying and talking about Arabs and Muslims and, you know? Then they made all brown people in the world Muslim, right? That's what they did for a while. All brown people became Muslim in the eyes of the hateful. Do you know the first victim of a racially instigated attack inspired directly as a revenge attack for 9/11? The very first victim of a revenge attack for 9/11 in the United States, yeah, was a, oh, fuck, not Hindu. He was a Sikh. He was a Sikh. The first victim of a racially motivated attack as revenge for 9/11 in the United States was against a Sikh. Because Muslim meant brown person. This, Peggy, you wouldn't know about this stuff. This stuff wasn't taught in American schools. This stuff isn't really taught that much in English schools unless you happen to go to Tripp's weird school. You're not allowed to learn about Karl Marx. You're not allowed to learn about communism. You're not allowed to learn about the Bolsheviks. You're not allowed to learn about Lenin or Stalin because you're meant to think all of the communists were the same and all are bad. That's all you're meant to think. Sikhs are great. Sikhs are some of the best people. Maths and mathematic techniques have independently been developed in such important ways throughout the world, and it is our combination of them that enable such great science and maths these days. That was a nice little segue off the back of some absolutely horrific shit that we just read there, eh? Wasn't that? That was some nice knowledge off the back of reading that he's decided to call himself Führer Putin from now on. I'm sorry. Calling Lenin the author and creator of Ukraine. See? You were right, Trip. Trip is right. Lenin was the Bolshevik, the original. Putin now onto a modern day Ukraine has never had traditions of its own statehood. The Ukrainian state is built on denying everything that invites us, the historical memory of millions of people. Collapse of historic Russia. The Soviet Union was a failure of its leaders and their policies. The bulk of Putin's televised address, which has been going on for more than 20 minutes, has so far mostly been a review of Ukraine and Russia's history. Putin said that Russia was robbed by the collapse of the Soviet Union and that Ukraine has never had the traditions of its own statehood. Western nations are giving us token words about sovereign rights of countries to choose their defense alliances. Sneers. We have full right to take countermeasures to defend our security, and this is what we will do. Putin is over 50 minutes into his televised address to Russia. After speaking on the history of Ukraine and Russia, Putin is now talking about the state of Ukraine today, saying that the country is being controlled from the outside. Ukraine has become a colony of puppets. Ukrainians squandered not only everything we gave them during the USSR, but even everything they inherited from the Russian Empire, even the work created by Catherine the Great. Hey, I'm so happy that everything I was saying to you during my sorry. Recently, I've been like, well, you guys know how much I fucking hate it when I get stuff wrong. When I get stuff right, it makes me happy. Even if it's about depressing stuff, I'm just happy that I wasn't chatting bullshit to you during the intro, you know? I sometimes worry. I'm sometimes like, oh God, what if when we start reading the article and stuff, like everything I was telling the guys during the intro, I just got completely wrong. But no, here's Putin. I just, wow. Ukraine has become a colony of puppets. Ukrainians squandered not only everything we gave, so mad that gave them during the USSR, but even everything they inherited from the Russian Empire, even the work created by Catherine the Great. Putin told the nation that Ukraine was preparing military action against our country. Lies. And how is Ukraine to prepare military action against their country? What? I'm sorry. Thank you. He's not here right now. Thank you to the newsman in Discord for this one. Ukrainian troops, 1.1 million. Russian troops, 2.9 million. Active, 200,000. Active, 900,000. Attack aircraft, 98. Attack aircraft, 1,511. Attack helicopters, 34. Attack helicopters, 544. 2,596 tanks, 12,240 fucking tanks. 12,000 armoured vehicles, 30,000 armoured vehicles. 20,000 towed artillery, 7,000. I doubt the German Catherine the Great would care about the ethno-nationalism, but whatever. Thing is, oh, Lo, you had already clocked out when we were watching this vid the other night. She is also important in German ethno-nationalism too. It's fascinating with that one, isn't it? That helicopters are lit though. It's why everyone wants to be one. It's why all the fucking like straight cis Republicans constantly say they want to be attack helicopters because they're not lying. When they say they identify as them, they're just manifesting their desires. Can I just say though, right? Like I had no interest in this stuff until a few years ago either. I will say Trump. I'm one of the people that was dragged into the political spectrum by. But no, to be fair, I was dragged into politics when I went to uni, and the student riots because I went to uni the year of the student riots in London and moved into Tower Hamlets where the majority of the worst protesting and rioting had taken place. Like, so it was very, and you know, when you go to uni, you often get into politics and stuff anyway. It can just happen. But then post uni, I felt very out of it. And my brother was very obsessed with economics and politics and stuff. And me and him would have long conversations about it. And thus he got me a bit more into it. But as he got me more into it, as I've discussed, I got more and more into more right wing sort of views and stances on the world. And through then learning the counterpoints to those things and de-radicalizing myself a little bit, I've just become heavily invested in the truth. So I'm not even interested in politics, economics, law, anything. I'm just interested in the truth, psychology. There is no one subject that holds my interest above any other, I've realized. I just really care about the truth. Obsessively seeking the truth on whatever takes my interest week by week. It's good learning more about it, though. Ultimately, it is better to be aware. Exactly. I feel like by raising awareness in many of you, it's this is the real trickle down. It's not trickle down economics, but trickle down philosophy, trickle down political theory, trickle down cultural ideas and moral philosophy. Oh, that can be powerful, I think. Me sharing my ideas, me learning from you your ideas and your viewpoints, you sharing your new viewpoints and your new ideas with your friends, and that process, that that I think, like, I'm never going to be a movement leader. I'm never going to be there fucking waving a flag, leading an army sort of thing. I'm never going to be the voice that shouts the loudest in the revolution, you know. I am not the voice that will change the world. But but could I get a few hundred, maybe even a few thousand people on track to helping out in that process? I think I can do that. So that's what I'm doing. Or trying. It's fun. Oh, Sterling. Completely broken. I used to be that way, to be fair. Again, I had friends that were into politics. I had friends that tried to talk to me about these sorts of things, and all I was interested in was anime. And even today, like, you get me talking about certain anime, manga, or video games, and that will just, or art or something, and that will just segue me off for an infinite number of hours. As you know, my special interests are still there within. But for some reason, I keep a lot of my, as I've also revealed a few times, I keep a lot of my special interests deeply to myself, and more engage in things that aren't my main interests on stream. It's very odd, I know. It's part of me. It's part. It's not. It's part of me putting myself out of my comfort level and learning. School. This is me at school, innit? Yeah, same, Clary. Same. That's why I really like having Trip about, and some of you others about as well, to help with the hive mind. So I'm like, it's so much better. Most interesting uniforms and get spotted and shot the quickest. Watching Parliament has taught me nothing about politics. I'm not gonna lie. I learned nothing. It's a spectator sport. It's a blood sport. Watching Parliament, I find, and nothing else. I've learned about. I've learned no, because at the end of the day, I always have to watch analysis. I learn more now. Now I can watch, the House of Commons for 2 hours a day and learn a fuckload and form my own analysis. But I couldn't originally. I have had to be taught how to analyze the words that come out of those fucks' mouths, because they are fucking snakes. Actual serpents. I really hate it because I've been supporting some, like, politicians lately and bigging up some politicians lately. And I feel like every time I big up or support a politician, they let me down big time. And it's literally happened in the last month, where I swear to God, every single politician that I have named to you guys with some word of support has gone and massively let me down. And I don't think I've mentioned enough of those letdowns on stream. I need to talk about them, because there are some politicians that I've verbally supported on stream, and then I'm now disgusted at some of their recent behaviour and actions and words. Lepadia, sleep. I was surprised to see you here. Thought you would already be asleep, my friend. You sleep well. I hope you're safe. And would you mind tomorrow maybe having a look at your own Swedish news and, like, maybe doing a little, like, headline translation for us? I'd like to get the Baltic view. Is Sweden touching the Baltic Sea? Yeah, you are on the Baltic Sea. Like, no wonder you're stressed, my friend. You are very much on the Baltic Sea. You are the Baltic Sea. As the most of the Baltic coast, you are the Baltic Sea. Yeah. No wonder you're stressed, my friend. No wonder you're stressed. It's very near. I get it. Right. You look after yourself, and I would really appreciate. Oh, my friend in Gotland, right? Yeah, that's this island here, isn't it? Yep, that's Gotland. This island right here, guys, Gotland. And as we were saying, do you remember this is where we were looking at yesterday? This is where Belarus. So this Kaliningrad and Belarus, and also Vlad has St. Petersburg is here. So Vlad, the Gulf of this is like all controlled by Russian. Like there's so many Russian warships in this ocean. I get it. Yeah, and your friends in Romania. That's really stressful, my friend. Please look after yourself. Give your friends in this time your love. Send them messages. And then for my own selfish sake, if you could tomorrow, do a little headline scan for me. I'd like to know what like I say, you're far more in the region than we are. Your news is probably going to be more accurate than ours. I'd assume your news will be more accurate than ours. I have no idea what the impartiality or sort of corruption levels are like within your media sources, but I would appreciate that. It would be interesting to know. Yeah. Stressful times. I give that message to all of you as well, to be honest. Reach out to, if you have loved ones in that part of the world, make sure you let them know, friends in that part of the world. Send them a message right now being like, just checking in on you. Hope you're all right. Clary, that literally just happened here as well. Oh, and now there's car traffic noise again. God damn it. No, yeah, the wind here just stopped as well. I didn't even realise it until you said it. The wind noise has stopped. It's part of the reasons why I've been wearing the ear mufflers, because it's been giving me such a headache. Ooh, that's really weird. It was a very big gust of wind, eh? Gust of wind heard round the nation. Right. So yeah, Putin trying to say that Ukraine is prepping, like trying to fight them is such bullshit. Preparing military action against our country. That was the start of that segue. Putin trying to say that they're preparing military action against them is just bullshit. We've seen the size of the armies. It's bullshit. Then pivoted a rant about NATO. And this is why I needed to give you the historical context about NATO. Because he then went on a rant about NATO, saying that NATO is commanding Ukrainian troops and that the organization is the actual aggressor. I fucking predicted Putin's talking points. I'm proud of myself. I'm so happy that I understand geopolitical history enough to predict awful events. Oh God. I'm so unhappy all over again. Oh God. Western nations are giving us token words about sovereign rights of countries to choose their defence. Oh, yeah, we read that one. Putin to recognise. And then after a long-winded speech lasting nearly an hour, Vladimir Putin said he will recognise the independence of two territories of eastern Ukraine, the Luhansk People's Republic and the Donetsk People's Republic, the DPR and the LPR. I mean, the DPR is a really good name. That's such a great name for a country, DPR. That doesn't remind me of anything bad at all. Yeah, it's incredible, right? He's the liberator. It is the same as the Americans, actually. Yeah, we fucking liberated DPRK, DPRC, Democratic People's Republic of Congo. Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Deep, the other Democratic People's Republic of China, the other DPRC. No, what did they change their name to in China? Because there were two DPRCs for a while, I swear. So following a televised address aired on the country's state-run news channel, Putin joined the leaders of the LPR and DPR to sign a decree. How are the leaders of the LPR and DPR in fucking Moscow to sign a decree? Fucking hell, this is what I mean. You know, when I was saying that the leaders of the Russian separatists are literal paid, like they're there to sign a decree together already, recognizing the independence of the two countries, two territories. So, if Vlad is recognizing the independence of the two territories, what follows next? PRC. You're right, PRC. They skip the D because they're not democratic. They had a democratically elected prime minister, Xi Jinping, and then he decided to scrap any future elections. They were democratic for an election. He scrapped all future elections and made himself democratically elected prime minister for the unforeseeable future. But anyway, what follows Vlad signing this? Who else now recognizes their independence? Well, obviously, China will now recognize the independence of these two territories, which will mean China can now legally start providing these two countries legal lethal aid without breaking UN convention or whatever, Geneva Convention. It now means all the African nations that have effectively sworn fealty to China and Russia will do the same. Belarus can now defend them and support them. This is what opens the footsteps. As I said, this is what now makes it go. And this statement here is every breach of the Geneva Convention. Like, that's everything within the Geneva Convention now effectively breached in a sentence. It's quite impressive. So there is the der. Those who took the path of violence, bloodshed, and lawlessness did not recognise and don't recognise any other solution to the Donbass problem besides the military. Therefore, I believe it is necessary to take a long overdue decision to immediately recognise the independence and sovereignty of the Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic. You are the one who's taken the path of violence, bloodshed, and lawlessness. Only you. Fueling, funding, and inciting Russian separatists. Good. That makes me happy as fuck. I love it when stuff like that happens. Some good news in this. Silver linings. Always silver linings in every dark storm. Russia has controlled and armed the two states since the outbreak of fighting in southeast Ukraine following a revolution in Kiev in 2014. 2014, God, it was 8 years ago the revolution occurred. We wanted to keep them in Ukraine with the right to veto crucial decisions such as membership in NATO. And it was at the same time as the revolution in Kiev that he also then annexed Crimea. In London, British Prime Minister Bojo said Vlad Putin's decision to recognise the two separatist Ukrainian republics was plainly in breach of international law. It is a flagrant violation of the sovereignty and integrity of Ukraine. He also described it as an ill omen and dark sign that things were moving in the wrong direction. I'm Boris, being diplomatic and prime ministerial, blah, 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 blah. Right, let's get updated. Updates as of 14 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago. 6 minutes ago, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba has just confirmed Britain will enforce severe sanctions upon Russia in the face of any legal action after speaking with his British counterpart, UK Foreign Secretary Liz Truss. That means, oh, you poor boy, Dmytro. Liz Truss, I can't believe they're having... Why? It's like, I watched her on fucking LBC chatting about how she'd gone over to Russia to speak to their fucking foreign minister, and she was like, yes, and we definitely understood each other. And they're like, no, Liz, they would have literally been... They are so sexist in Russia. They are so incredibly sexist in Russia that are sending... I'm sorry, and you may think maybe it could have been done as a power play. Maybe if Liz Truss were a Maggie Thatcher, maybe if Liz Truss were fucking Jacinda Ardern, but even Theresa May got nothing but fucking mocked by her Russian counterparts and by Vlad. Like, seriously. It doesn't work with the Russians. They hear a woman start talking and they will just start laughing and zone out. A woman in politics? What a joke, right? That is the viewpoint there. We need to remember, based on Putin's current language and rhetoric, they've gone full-blown Nazi fascist. They do not respect women. They never have. Women are completely second-class citizens in Russia. They are breeders, and that is all they are. That is all they exist to be. It's awful. It's fucking... yeah, people don't understand. The Geneva Convention is a set of rules established in Geneva, Switzerland, that because Switzerland is the place where, you know, they're neutral, neutral zone, the world's neutral zone, and the Geneva Convention exists to say this is what you can and can't do when fighting a war, what makes a war legal, and what makes a war illegal. All wars should be illegal. The fighting for self-defense should always be legal, and war should always be illegal, in my opinion. But anyway, Safari, welcome back. Poor Kaleba having to fucking now deal with Liz Truss himself to get help. But anyway, we have been saying severe sanctions now for a week. We've been talking about severe sanctions. The severe sanctions do involve basically every Western nation refusing to trade whatsoever with Russia. And in return, Russia is going to cut the oil. They've already cut the oil, in fact, I believe. Britain will... What does this language mean? Britain will enforce severe sanctions upon Russia in the face of any illegal action. Well, there's already been hundreds of illegal actions. So does this mean we are now going to enforce severe sanctions ASAP? What does this actually mean? There are wars we should fight. As I say, I do think we should be fighting for Ukraine right now. I do. But again, that's defense, I guess, in my opinion as well. Even if it would be us lending aid to a nation, it's still a nation that we promised to defend in this exact situation. So there's honour in that still, somehow, for me. Call me a weeb. I don't know, but that's just the right thing to do. Just right and wrong. I'm super autistic about this. It's just there's right and there's wrong. And I just wish autists could make all the laws and everyone could just listen to us and do what we say. It would make my life so much less difficult. Russia requires the right to build military bases in eastern Ukraine. Russia has acquired the right to build military bases in the two breakaway regions under treaties signed by President Vladimir Putin with the separatist leaders. This is from Reuters. He was ordering troops to the region on a peacekeeping mission. So that means Russian troops are now in Ukraine. They're not just on the border, they're now in Ukraine. But it doesn't count as in Ukraine because this is the breakaway regions. No, it's in Ukraine. Vlad is using this. This is. Do you remember I kept saying to you the invasion was happening? And this is them moving. This is them moving troops in. This is their legal excuse, and Vlad is confirming it. He is sending troops in on a peacekeeping mission into Ukraine itself, ergo invading a foreign nation with his troops, having also stirred up civil war. Under the two identical friendship treaties submitted by Putin for ratification by Parliament, Russia has the right to build bases in the separatist regions, and they can, on paper, do the same in Russia. The parties commit to defend each other and sign separate agreements on military cooperation and recognition of each other's borders. They're going to work to integrate their economies. Great. The United States is calling for an urgent meeting of the UN Security Council. We must all stand with Ukraine in the face of Russia's brazen attempt to usurp Ukraine's sovereign territory. There can be no fence-sitters in this crisis. Big up. Big up, Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield. Big up. Big up. Yes. Yes. Oh my God. I never thought I would agree with a US ambassador calling for war, basically. But yes. Yeah. Yeah, Sterling. That's not Putin's greatest trick. Oh, you underestimate what the trick Putin pulled. Right. Putin was president of Russia, right? And then just a month before he had to stop being president, right? Russia has a president and a prime minister. The prime minister was just had no real power. The president had all the power. A month before he had to stop being president, he gave the prime minister of the nation all the power and then immediately stepped down and then immediately ran in the upcoming prime ministerial election, became prime minister of the country for the next few years, got to carry on ruling Russia. And then before he had to step down as being prime minister, he used his new prime ministerial powers to change the election laws for president so that he could run to be president again. And that's how they've had Putin for like 22 years. All legally, democratically elected in. He just keeps shifting power between the two figureheads. Oh. Oh my gosh. US Congressman Jerry Connolly unsurprisingly says the ordering of Russian troops into Ukraine is not a peacekeeping operation. Talking to CNN's Wolf Blitzer, this is not a peacekeeping operation. We need to stop enabling Putin with even the use of that word. Agreed. I would agree. These are units of the Russian military who are using the pretext of the independence of Russian occupied sovereign territory over Ukraine to further that occupation and to expand it. Right now, Russia's surrogates and Russian troops occupy about a third of Donetsk and Luhansk. What he proposes to do immediately is to extend that to the remaining 2/3. That is an invasion by any sense of the imagination. I 100% agree. I do agree. And again, like I was looking. Do you remember last night? I don't know if you might have fallen asleep at that point, Claire. I can't remember. We were looking at like the placement of troops in Ukraine and in Russia right now, and I did have a look at them earlier today. They have invaded. It's happened. Like this, it is an invasion. They've just done it in the most technically legal way possible to avoid outright bloodshed. In some ways, what Putin has done today with this whole getting the leaders of the regions to agree to it is pretty clever. I think there would have been more bloodshed the other way. I don't know. Only time is going to tell. Zelensky says we are not afraid after Russia officially recognized the breakaway regions as independent. He says he expects clear support from the West. We don't owe anyone anything and we won't give anyone anything. Good, Zelensky. The reality is Zelensky is heavily supported by his country. Zelensky has been a decent leader and he's been putting up with a lot of shit and he's needed Western support more than he has gotten. That has been true for many a year now. These are dumb and lazy, these fucking things. We were looking at these yesterday. Thank you, Trip. It's better than watching BBC News anyway, isn't it? If you need to sleep, you sleep. The world will still be here tomorrow. Things are just going to be the same tomorrow. Prices are going to go up. I expect everything to go up even more than we expected. The cutting of the pipeline from Russia right now is a big deal. Petro Poroshenko told Sky News that Poland, the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, the Czech Republic, Romania, and Bulgaria could be in Vladimir Putin's sights in the future. Former Prime Minister of Ukraine. Was he the... Wasn't he the Russian plant? I thought Poroshenko was the fucking plant. Surely he'd be saying that... No, he wasn't. No, he's a very old president. Okay. Oh, no, president of Ukraine 2014 to 2019. He was the Russian plant. Yeah. Yeah, it's thanks to his reign that a lot of the fucking tension between Russian separatists grew. His pushing of the Ukrainian language, nationalism, inclusive capitalism. You know, he helped create the autocephalous Orthodox Church of Ukraine. He's been called a neo-Nazi himself. He is this man is the one I was talking about. This is the evil leader that opened fire on his own people. And even the president that was the Russian plant. Yo. That's crazy. That's crazy. Ooh, this is interesting. What is Nord Stream 2 and how does it fit in? This can better explain. I kept saying Nord Stream 2 is important. This is going to explain it. One of the biggest sanctions Russia has been threatened with in the event of an invasion of Ukraine is the cancelling of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Earlier this month, US President Joe Biden said the 1,225 kilometre, 760-mile long pipeline under the Baltic Sea, which was designed to double Russia's natural gas exports to Germany, would be shut down if Russian troops invade. I promise you we will be able to do it, he told reporters, although German Chancellor Olaf Scholz was more ambiguous at the same news conference. So this is the other interesting thing. This is why this is why Germany so far has not been very aggressive or spoken up much about this, is because Germany is once Nord Stream 2 open, they want this fucking fuel flowing into their country. They want the cheap oil. Of course they want the cheap oil. The new Chancellor of Germany, Chancellor being their president, their prime minister, that equivalent, the leader of Germany, Chancellor Olaf Scholz, being ambiguous about the shutting of Nord Stream 2 is worrying to me. That's called appeasement. The pipeline was built to carry enough gas to fuel 26 million homes in Europe, although it has not started operating yet. It was strongly supported by Russia, which wanted to export more gas, and Germany, which wanted a cheaper and more efficient supply than pipelines through Ukraine and Poland. See where the pipelines currently go through? Ukraine and Poland. Sleepest wellest, my dude. God, terrible boycott, though. But the UK and US were concerned it would make Europe more dependent on Russia for energy supply, and Ukraine called it a dangerous political weapon. So there is currently Nord Stream 1, and Nord Stream 1 is open. That's it. So Nord Stream 1 is open, and Nord Stream 2 is effectively the same, but Nord Stream 2 isn't open. So so we threatened sanctions against Russia, and Russia threatened sanctions on Nord Stream 1, which provides already half of the German population with their fucking heating. It's quite this is the problem. Russia doesn't buy much from us, but we do buy from Russia as a collective, as Europe. We do buy from Russia. When you see the Nord Stream pipeline, it does make more sense why Russia cares so much about this area when you think this is most of their income. It's It's always about oil. It's fucking always about oil. Yeah, he's timed it well, hasn't he? He's timed it very well. This is what I was saying. This is what I was saying about him arming that area as well before. That was the bit of missing context with Nord Stream, seeing it properly. This is why he's been flexing in that region to sort of encourage, because America and, like, say, the UK and the US and Ukraine have been saying we don't want Nord Stream 2, we don't want Nord Stream 2. But the rest of the world, with things getting more and more expensive, a lot of Europe has been saying, but we kind of need Nord Stream 2. And so Vlad's been flexing in the region to say, you know, this is my territory sort of thing. I can do what I want. Fuck off. And, like, why the fuck, to be fair, if you're in Germany, like, let's just look at a fucking world map for a minute. You know, let's say you're in Germany. You're over here in Germany. You know, here's the Baltic Sea, here's Germany, here's Russia. Why the fuck should the president over here in Washington? Wait, is that Washington State, or are there two? There's like two. Is that where Washington the city is? Is Washington DC in Washington State? I'm so confused. America's so confusing. But the point is, why does your president have a fucking say? I do get that. Like, if I was the German Chancellor, if I was France, Italy, Australia, Romania, if I was Russia, if I was on any side of this, but if I was in this region, we're not even in this region. I don't feel like here in the UK we have that much of a claim to what goes on in this sea here, right? Maybe this sea, but we don't have much of a claim to this sea. Not really. No, we shouldn't do. What the fuck? A cunt's over here trying to tell people over here what to do. Where's under New York? Oh, Washington. Why is Washington DC not in Washington State? I never knew that. I always thought Washington DC was in Washington State, but Seattle is in Washington, and Washington DC is in. I've already lost it. I found it, and now I've lost it again. There it is. Washington is in West Virginia, Maryland. Washington's in, like, some made up state. Delaware? The fuck? What fucking state is Maryland? Why is there a state just called Maryland? How did I not know there was a state called Maryland? I thought Maryland was like a part of America. Like, I know that's got something to do with Elvis Presley, hasn't it, or something? I don't know. What the fuck? America, your naming conventions are literally the shittest. I'm just throwing that out quickly. We often, like, all your names are just French, or they're German, Pittsburgh, or they're French, or more often than not, just English. You know, Hampshire and fucking New Hampshire and New York, and just the shittest fucking names for anywhere ever. Look at the rest of the world and their interesting and unique kind of cool names. I mean, I don't know what the fuck's going on with all the Stans. The Stans, like, they got a bit confused at some point. But the rest of the world, we go for good names, and then here you are, and you just steal all our fucking names. You fucking thieves. It's not in a state. Where's Colombia? Colombia sounds completely made up. I thought Colombia is from fucking the video game. Can't even remember the name of the video game right now with the big daddies and shit. Oh my god. Literally fuck America and all your American names. Now, just to give you that little bit more context again, I love you, Americans, don't worry. But just to remind you, Ukraine, you see how big a landmass Ukraine is? It's the second largest landmass in Europe, just after France, before Germany. It goes France, Ukraine, Germany in terms of landmass, I believe. Somebody please fact check me. Why does United Kingdom look so big on this map? It's so much smaller than a lot of these countries. This map is so broken. It makes the United Kingdom look so much bigger than it should be. So stupid. So fucking stupid. I'm fairly sure in terms of landmass, UK is actually smaller than Italy. It's that fucking broken, this map. But yeah. Poor Ukraine. Poor Ukraine. Where is oh, Crimea. Oh, I was on Crimea. I thought the Crimean Peninsula was here. Yay, okay. I'm happy. Right, yesterday when I told you the Crimean Peninsula was here, I was right. Cool. This is the Crimean Peninsula. This region of the world. This is where Vlad annexed. So that adds the final bit of context. Yay! Right. So if you see Luhansk, Donetsk, Crimea, Belarus, Russia. You see how they literally now have Ukraine surrounded effectively on every side. It's like a game of Go. This is an IRL game of Go. Fucking hell, 4,300 people watching this plane right now. Sharm el Sheikh. Okay, so these are people fleeing Ukraine. 5,000 people watching this flight right now. These are people fleeing Ukraine. And otherwise, there are no planes over the entirety of Ukraine. Not even American or British right now, by the looks of it. Tel Aviv, LAX. That's nothing. That's a nothing. That's a nothing. No call sign. That's a something. You have to have a call sign. That's a nothing. That's an even bleaker picture than yesterday. Sharm el Sheikh is Egypt. I think so. Maybe not. So, no, this isn't the one I want. So that's still not right. MacArthur misconceptions. There we go. That still isn't right. Oh no! Oh no! I see. Right, right. Okay. So the light blue, yeah, that's what we can see as our map, and then you see the shrunken sizes. You see the darker shapes. That's the real the sizes. The darker shapes, the dark shapes are real. I like this because this, rather than expanding Africa to fit, what this does is show you how much other places have expanded themselves to big themselves up on the map. Americans like to act like they're a bigger place than they are. They're not. South America, huge. Africa, huge. India, huge. Right? We big up our small weak, cold countries because we are racist. True size of countries. Oh my god, Africa doesn't shrink at all, other than like Egypt and Morocco and a little bit of South Africa. Whereas fucking China, Russia, North America, England, fucking the Scandi countries, we all big ourselves up so much. So funny. So racist. But there are this one's but also how many countries no no not in Africa fit. Not how many countries in Africa, but how many countries would fit in Africa if we looked at a real map. This I fucking love, right? This is so funny. So here we have Madagascar, here we have Africa, and here we have the entirety of China, the entirety of India, the United States, the UK, Japan, Eastern Europe, Italy, Germany, France, Spain, Portugal. Most of the world fits snugly in Africa. Only missing bit is Australia. You can, if the United States was in Africa, it would take up a bit of the Sahara. The Sahara Desert, right, is the same size basically as all of India. China isn't bigger than Africa. Russia and Europe and China are not bigger than Africa. But you look at an average map. You know, stop trying to dox me. Whereas you go on the map, Africa, tiny, Russia and China made fucking massive. Australia, massive. America is made to be bigger than South America. When all of North America could fit in South America. All of North America fits in South America. Tell me maps aren't racist. Explain to me how this isn't just racism. It's not possible. Because it's just racism. Fucking Africa is so fucking big. It's so immensely big. It is the birthplace of the entire world. Everyone is African. We are all African. We all come from Africa. It is so much bigger than people understand. South America too. South America is fucking big. North America is big, but it's small compared to South America. Tell me that ain't just straight up racism, right? It's fucking right. So this is currently being updated. I found out about this last night. This is a map that is being fed by information from Twitter, social media, all sorts of things, but from Ukraine. These are all updates live occurring in Ukraine. This is a map that's basically Ukrainians have been using to map the conflict in the region since the incident in Crimea. So here we have Ukraine. All right. Donbass region. All these red things are photos, videos, proof of all these little explosion, little mushroom thingies are proof of conflicts. Photographed, videoed, proof of conflicts from the last 24 hours. So when I say the invasion is taking place, is occurring, it's happening, it's being reported on by Ukrainians in the country right now. Looks like tanks have been spotted on the northern border. This was that video. We saw this yesterday. We watched this. This video is from 19. We watched this 19 hours ago yesterday. When this is where this came from originally. Oh my gosh! So when I first saw this video, it was 270 views. Then we watched it at 3,000 views, and it's now on 300,000 views. It can have its time period extended, I think, but it's set, I believe, to the last 24 hours. It's got a longer feed going all the way back to 2020, and then estimates since 2014, as I say. But it's currently just showing us the last 24 hours of photographed, documented, videoed conflict in Ukraine. Okay. Or of other things like tanks being deployed.
Что-то в мире случилось такое. Сердце стало у всех ледяное.
And this is why I was saying earlier, this war is so different to any other in history. This is so mad, right? Because social media, websites like this, are giving us actual looks at what's occurring on the ground, unlike any other war in history. This site is basically where all of the videos being shared by CNN and everything else have been coming from. And it's pretty insane, basically. Joint Forces Operation 80 ceasefire violations yesterday. 1 Ukrainian serviceman wounded. So here we can see where I've selected that one. It's highlighted a few. Those are all from the same. That's from these 80 ceasefire violations yesterday. And they always give sources and stuff as well. From what I can tell, this has been fairly good shit in terms of reliability and accuracy. 266 miners are being evacuated from the Skochinskogo mine in western Donetsk after loss of power of an air ventilation system. So there's other stuff as well. That's terrifying. Jesus Christ. The air ventilation system going out in a mine. Oh my God, that's the scariest thing. Russian FSB border guards say projectile launched from territory of Ukraine destroyed their building 150 meters from the border this morning at 9:50. Reports on the false flags. It's covering false flag operations too. That's clear false flag bullshit. Here's the capital city of Donetsk. Heads of occupation authorities in parts of Luhansk and Donetsk regions, Ukraine, asking Putin to recognize independence. This was from 12 hours ago when that started happening. Occupation authorities in parts of Donetsk region declared emergency situation as Dukuchevsk and Olenivka left without water supply. Occupation authorities in parts of Donetsk. That's the same one. So, also, it looks like since this invasion kicked off, water is getting fucked up. Gas and electric, water, utilities are all suffering in this region now. Because that's kind of what happens when an invading army starts trampling through and shit goes fuck. Geolocation of video from Russian media outlet Newsfront on shelling of building in Rostov region on 19th February shows launch site of shelling occupied parts of Luhansk region of Ukraine. Right, so this was... People were saying, right, this video... There was a video the other day saying that there was this shelling occurring, saying that it was Ukrainians shelling Russian separatists, except now geolocation of the video proves that the missiles were being launched from parts already occupied by Russian separatists. So debunking of this false flag video. this is the debunking. I don't know if that's the most reliable debunking, to be fair. There's going to be all sorts of weird shit. Yeah, people will cry fake news for some of it, but it's Luhansk power station near Skastia stopped generation as power lines were cut as a result of shelling. Very heavy fighting can be heard in this video from Skastia in the Luhansk region. A fuel station is burning. So these are all parts that are basic that we know already are filled with Russian separatists. So it all seems like false flag attacks. Video spreads of Russian forces entering eastern Ukraine. Where's the video? Military convoy filmed in Seratino, Belgorod region. For fuck's sake, this TikTok generation, film horizontally, right? And stop putting fucking Russian trap hop over all of it. The Ukrainians are mental.
Снова нечисть тут и там напрягает мускулы. Значит, новым быть котлам. Не воюйте с русскими, что вы прете на рожон лбами голливудскими. Ход сражения предрешен.
You know, just casual war footage.
Не воюйте с русскими.
At a casual bot.
Дремлет талая заря над полями грустными. Не будите лихо зря. Не воюйте с русскими.
So Belgorod is Seratino, Belgorod. Right, so that is on the border. This red line is the border between Russia and Ukraine. Russia, Ukraine. That's kind of scary. Oh, and then that was an hour before. This video is from an hour before, but from the same region. Occupation authorities in part of Luhansk region say the head of the JCCC representative office and the driver were injured. Car exploded at office of representative occupation authorities in parts of Luhansk region. No casualties. Oh, they're saying one was injured now. Notice how all these things are happening in the most sussy possible places. Cool. We'll check back on this tomorrow. Yeah, no, we're getting to the links now. That is it for the news on that for now. There's no more updates for the minute as far as I can tell. Let me just one last check. I know this is for your brain, but I also need this for my brain. No. Just fucking great. I don't like the BBC much anymore, but still, their live updating is quite good. Okay, right, no. Oh, Kuleba had a chat with Secretary Blinken. So he's chatted with Liz Truss, and now he's chatted with Blinken. So he's got the UK and the US on board. Good things. I need Secretary of Defense or Secretary of State, whatever he is called, Secretary Anthony Blinken, to not do this. Russia's move to recognize the independence, in quotation marks, of so-called republics controlled by its own proxies is a predictable, shameful act. We condemn them in the strongest possible terms and hashtag stand with Ukraine, as I told Foreign Minister at Dmitry Kuleba tonight. It's one thing to at another foreign minister or whatever. Still kind of cringe. That. But it's a whole other for Secretary Anthony Blinken, husband, dad, very amateur guitarist, and the 71st Secretary of State serving under the leadership of at POTUS Biden, to hashtag stand with Ukraine. Again, the Russians aren't doing this shit. The Russians find this shit cringy. The Russians do not get intimidated by this shit. It makes the Russians laugh. The same way it made me burst out with laughter instantly. It's a raw, visceral gut reaction to most people to see a fucking Secretary of State on Twitter, husband, dad, very amateur guitarist, as his fucking profile description, hashtag standing with Ukraine. Condemning the Russians, hashtag standing with Ukraine. Oh, look at Biden signing paper to stop Russia making some money. This is pathetic. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. God almighty. We are fucking them. Australian embassy staff evacuated to Romania and Poland. A 22-year-old cook from Donetsk, the capital of one of the two rebel areas, says, I am very shocked. I live here. I already lost part of my homeland. It was taken away, so I'll protect it. Why should Russia recognize the rebel-held areas? If neighbors come to you and say this room will be ours, would you care about their opinion or not? It's your flat, and it will always be your flat. Let them Russians recognize whatever they want, but in my view, it can also provoke a war because normal people will fight for their country. 48-year-old painter added Maria Levishnya. And Russia's ambassador accuses Ukraine of aggression, saying allowing a new bloodbath in the Donbass is something we do not intend to do. Them not stopping. China urges restraint on all sides. You are affecting our income. Please stop, says China. And US to unveil more sanctions tomorrow. That is our newest updates. Great. Oh my god. What a cringe lord. I thought Anthony Blinken was going to be better than Liz Truss. No, he's also a fucking cringe lord. Oh, Liz Truss and Anthony Blinken trying to deal with fucking Eastern Europeans. No shot, mate. No shot. They're just laughing at you two. Pathetic. So annoyed at that. And so, what the fuck is international diplomacy? What the fuck is this? You know what I was saying? It's a completely different age, completely different to anything before. It's all going to be online. It's all going to be via social media. There are going to be people on the ground filming it. The one bit I didn't add is there's also going to be secretaries of state tweeting about it with hashtag stand with Ukraine. Fuck.